My name is Michaela, and this is my story. I grew up in a really loving home. We just didn't really go to church. My family was just very secular, and my parents really kind of wanted us to explore our beliefs on our own. But I never really did that, honestly, until recently. About a year ago, I was diagnosed with a chronic pain condition. It's a really rare condition, so there's not a lot of research on it, and I went from doctor to doctor, and no one really knew exactly what was going on. I felt like no one knew how to help me, and that just made me feel completely hopeless and isolated. Unfortunately, in January, I was put on a medication that was supposed to help with this condition, but I wasn't told about the side effects, and they were very detrimental. Not only did the pain not get any better, my mental health was the lowest it's ever been. I have struggled throughout my life with obsessive compulsive disorder, and I really did have a handle on it until I was on this medication, and it relapsed severely. I finally made the decision with my family to go off this medication. I started doing more holistic health things, but I also at this time started thinking about my beliefs in a higher power, which again, I'd never done before. I'd gone to church with my grandma here and there on Christmas and Easter, but I didn't even know how to pray. I had to ask my fiance Connor even how to do that. He grew up in church, so he had a lot of knowledge for me, and I felt really comfortable asking him questions and just learning from him. Also at this time, I reached back out to one of my best friends from high school named Emma. The thing about that friendship is I always looked at Emma as having just this perfect life. Emma had always been really religious. She seemed always happy. Part of me looked at her and wished I could be like that too. But actually, when I reached back out to her this past May to kind of ask some questions, she shared with me that she had been going through a hard time, and that hard time had helped her lean into her faith even more. And I obviously had no idea. She seemed completely happy and content and at peace. And when I asked her how through such a hard time that she was able to still be happy and accepting of everything, she said it was because of her relationship with Jesus. She unfortunately lives across the state, so we really have just been sending voice memos back and forth. I would tell her anytime I felt like I had an encounter with God, I would always share that with her. And so she's been someone who's really supported me in this journey, even though we've been far apart distance-wise. In June, I went to a life coaching retreat where I was being trained to be a life coach. And that experience was really a turning point for me. So I finished that week with the life coaching retreat, and I was driving home. It was about dusk, so there was this beautiful sunset. I just felt kind of called to play some worship music, which I'd never really listened to in my life. So when I shuffled it, the song Even If by Mercy Me came on. Within the first verse, I was kind of frozen in place because that story, I resonated so much with it. And I remember the song ends with, "It is well with my soul," and I felt this rush of peace that I'd never really experienced before. Christians' lives aren't just perfect. They have this faith, and that's how they can be content and at peace no matter the circumstance. Struggling with mental health, anxiety, OCD, that's just not been a part of my life, and it's something I've always wanted, but I'd never felt it like I felt it in the car that night. And that's when I knew God was with me, and in that moment I did not feel alone anymore. That was when I decided I really wanted to pursue this relationship with God. I kind of was nervous about going to any church because I didn't want to feel like people were judging me or anything like that for not having grown up like this. I think I searched on Google like loving church community, and Focus Church was one of the first ones that came up. So in August, me and Connor started going to church at Focus, and I remember the first day we came, it was so welcoming. Everyone was so kind. I didn't feel judged at all, and I even shared that I'd never really been to church before, and again, I was very nervous for the response, but everyone was just so excited for us to be there, and I felt so welcomed. I'd also never had a church experience like that. I just felt like everyone had so much passion for the Lord and His plan. It just really excited me. I'm a really passionate person, and that just spoke to me to see a room full of passionate people. Another major turning point that I had in my journey, not only with my relationship with the Lord, but also in my chronic pain journey, was when I went to Receive 101 with Pastor Dave. One thing he told us to do was to go back to a really difficult memory we had and to put Jesus in that moment. I actually imagined Jesus beside me in this particular moment that I was thinking of, and I just felt like that memory was healed, and now when I look back on it, I feel like it's kind of fuzzy. It's not as prominent anymore. That memory and Pastor Dave guiding me to see that even in that moment where I didn't believe, I wasn't even thinking about a relationship with God at that point, Jesus was there with me. And He'd been there with me through this whole journey. In the past 3 months, I've seen more healing than I have in the past year. That's really because of my relationship with God. Even though I still have some tough days with my journey, I always feel more at peace. God is always walking with me. And that's what I hope other people get to experience, is that same relationship and that same comfort. I feel like God used this journey to call me home. And, I always thought it was too late for me, but it's really never too late to come home.